Welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast that has the science and the screaming to figure out what the best movie is of any given year. Before I introduce the panelists, know this show is also a game in which points are awarded for well-made arguments, cogent thoughts about the film, jokes, and anything else I feel like awarding. Normally, when one of them's a snot, I give the other one points, like a fair parent. The winner will also be my best friend for a week and have gloating rights. This season, we're digging into 1975, and this week, we're on the run with the 3 days of the Condor. I'm your host, Mike, and my best friend from last week is Greg.
Hello, Mike. I'm so glad to be here and to be on the run with
have you, bestie. There's nobody else I would rather kidnap and force to sleep right next to me than you, Greg.
That's troubling.
It's not a sex thing. It's a safety thing.
But maybe tomorrow it will be a sex thing. I mean, we got 3 days of this Condor,
it's not
right?
Intended to be a sex thing.
But it could be.
But it could become a sex thing. Also, here is Ryan.
Thanks, Mike, for that incredible introduction. Just honored, as always, to be here and to have you as our host, our guide, our Sherpa.
I hate you.
What the fuck, man? What do you want then?
I don't know, but it's not whatever it is you're doing.
There was a tone in that you didn't really mean what you said.
Okay, whatever you guys talk about as far as like being genuine, I obviously don't understand what it means. So why don't you just take my words as I say them?
No, I finally understand what so much of the world has said about you. It just clicked.
What? That I can't be earnest? Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My brain is a prison and Ernest goes to jail. Shut up, Mike.
Let him do his thing, Mike. A lot of runway, okay? Let the plane take off.
I thought we were building something together.
Yes, and you ruined it.
No butt is my body type.
I do have to announce at the top of the show, this movie has made me grumpy, and I am therefore grumpy.
Yeah, the patrons got a hint that might come with Greg. Greg is normally just like,
I love everything.
Our jolly boy. Yeah.
Some of the movies of 75 really pissed me off, and this was definitely one of them.
What was your experience with it before going in to this week?
So it was part of what I called the 75 Scramble, which is we decided we were going to watch the movies of 75, and we all ran out and got in our distinct vehicle and then drove. I had a motorcycle, and in the the sidecar was my cat wearing a little aviator goggles and a scarf, and I drove around in a silly circle and grabbed as many movies as I could, and one of them was 3 Days of the Condor, and I was like really enjoying it, and then about halfway through, he kidnaps Faye Dunaway, and from that point forward, this movie has made me very grumpy. And so I was like, this whole season, I was like, we're going to do this show about 3 Days of the Condor, and I'm going to get to say how much it pissed me off that he kidnaps Faye Dunaway, and then the movie doesn't really do much with that. And here we are. I'm prepared to do that.
How much of the rest of the movie, the parts that didn't have that, because it is a subplot in the film, or it overshadowed the point that you cannot critique it?
Almost to that degree. Like it's so weird, and I don't think it's like totally out of step with the mores of 75. And if anything, that's what makes it even weirder. It seems like it's not, the movie doesn't treat it as big a deal as it would be. That's kind of why I bring it up at the top, is because like it's hard for me to connect to the movie in any other way, especially because like the movie's about a guy who works for the CIA because he's so good at reading books. That's very much my shit. We're always saying on the show I'm a Robert Redford type, and so it should be,
you should be president.
Yeah, and so I think that then it made me all the more upset.
Because it made you feel complicit because you're a book reader.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
You're a page
I'm a bit of a page turner.
Which might be the character's
myself.
name. Ryan, how about you? What is your history with the 3 Days of the Condor?
I've seen this before. It was a while ago. I was kind of nervous. Greg and I had talked about it throughout the season, but I didn't know he was so grumpy about it. He held that close to his chest.
I want to unveil it live on the air.
And I had sort of said that I was not worried about it, but not super excited, just because I remember it as a kid being a little bit boring. And it's not just that. maybe not up to stuff. Like I was being a genre snob and saying we've watched some movies that have like changed filmmaking forever. And then 3 Days of the Condor, really? So I watched it with all of the appropriate bias and arms being crossed that you want to before you watch any movie. And I gotta say, there's a film critic I like named Michael Phillips who, for some reason, even though he's not that much older than us,
doesn't swim anymore?
talks basically like he's from the 30s, and he uses this term where he calls some movies crackerjack.
I love that. This guy sounds like a real firecracker.
And I think that this movie is crackerjack. I think that Greg's opinions are his own.
I thought you just meant the Gregs of the world. Gregs as a people.
I understand that what Robert Redford does, but I think that watching the two of them together makes it worth it. And I was very surprised as to how like into this movie I was and how deep it could be if you decide to go there.
And see, I think I agree with that, and that's part of what is like annoying about it, or disappointing about it is probably a better word. Is that like it's a well-made movie, it's interesting, it's an interesting idea. Like it is such an interesting idea to have like a CIA office where all they do is read all the books to see if they can glean anything from that. It's so interesting that like Russia and America both started doing that after this movie. They're like, we actually don't have that, but we should. So they opened up offices that did it.
America was like, let's do 4 days of the Condor. And Russia was like, let's do 5 days of the Condor then.
And China came in like 6 days of the Condor, bitches.
Yeah. You guys are so into reading books, maybe read the original book, which is 6 Days of the Condor, assholes. I thought I was going to come in fist swinging against both of you because around the margins of the conversation, both on and off air, it was clear at least that Greg was not excited, and I thought Ryan was also not excited about this movie. And like our friend Michael Phillips, goddamn crap.
It was, right?
I loved it. I said recently, I think on the Night Moves bonus episode, that noir is just up my ass, and I'm going to be in for it. I think like espionage thriller is in that. Anytime a movie shows how I felt since I was 5, which is the whole world's against you and you don't know who you can trust, I'm now into it as an old man.
Not just that, Mike, but when push comes to shove, you'll know what to do. I'll figure out the spy shit on the fly.
You weren't trained at all. You're going to be the best that they've ever seen, actually.
Does the movie settle on you can't trust anybody, though?
I think it kind of does.
Because doesn't it kind of settle on like, but you can fucking trust the press? One thing you could definitely do is turn over all this information to the press.
I don't think so.
We'll make a modern version where that is less clear.
Just same exact things in our modern version. But at the end, just have Robert Redford be like, I don't trust the press, and then roll the credit.
Yeah, he looks back. Well, actually, no, I have reservations.
We'll still do the freeze frame, and then unfreeze it after like 3 seconds, and then have him say that.
We are going to take a break, and then when we come back, dive right into the nitty and the gritty of the 3 Days of the Condor. Directed by our old pal Sidney Pollack and starring Robert Redford and Faye Dunaway, 3 Days of the Condor doubles the tension of the book it's adapted from 6 Days of the Condor, following a goofy CIA analyst who stumbles into a plot of a secret organization within the CIA, leading to his entire team getting killed. On the run and trusting no one, he kidnaps Faye Dunaway and forces her to help him. They, of course, go to Bonetown and help take on the agency and its amoral freelancers. While Pollack has said he just wanted to make a fun espionage thriller, much has been made of the paranoia and distrust in government post-Nixon's resignation. Taste buds, I ask you this. Does Redford and Dunaway's romance come off as anything more than obligatory Hollywood shenanigans, especially given that in the same year, Patty Hearst was kidnapped, which introduced the world to Stockholm Syndrome?
I mean, doesn't it make the kidnapping make more sense and the subsequent romance now that we know about Patty Hearst and the Stockholm Syndrome? Ooh,
yeah,
band
it
name.
feels way more. That is a good band name. It is much more Hollywood shenanigans, unless you're like, oh, this happens. People get kidnapped by handsome people, and they're like, sure.
Why? When the first time I watched this movie, like I would say 10 minutes after he kidnapped her, I was like, I gotta go back and watch this again. Why does he decide that he has to kidnap a woman as part of like getting away from whatever is going on? What leads him to make this decision?
Random.
He needs a car. She doesn't know him, so that she can't be tied back to him.
Okay.
And in his head, he is a nerdy analyst, and he can overpower her. That's my assumption there.
Yeah, because when Yobert or whatever, the guy asks him at the end of it, he's like, hey, by the way, how did you decide who to kidnap? And he's like, for instance, did you decide because it was somebody you knew, or did you decide because of
Based
her
on
age,
looks?
or did you choose based on her looks? And Robert Redford Turner just like looks at him like and pauses for a second, and he's like, "Nope, random." And it's like, "Oh, okay, yeah. So you were in that. You randomly kidnapped Faye Dunaway. It had nothing to do with like the way she looks, for instance. Like you didn't immediately decide you had to kidnap a beautiful woman, and then." Like very early in your relationship, be like, "Hey, by the way, I've been pretty nice to you. I haven't raped you yet, or I haven't raped you." He didn't say yet. That would be even worse, right?
Oh man, that'd be terrifying. But I do love her response, and like Faye Dunaway injects so much into this character. She like rolls her eyes and says, "The night is young." Like she is terrified and still sassy,
and then still seems conflicted after they consummate their relationship. Which again, like it's hard to argue that that's not rape.
Yeah,
even though she doesn't
definitely coerced sex.
Yeah, and he has already like forced her like kind of like into intimacy with him. He's like, "I gotta sleep, so I'm gonna point this gun at you while I do so, and you have to stay right here with me and cuddle me." It seems like that kind of takes precedence over the randomness of her. Like you could break into a random house. There's so many things you could
bookseller because he loves reading.
Because she's if we watched him be like, "No, too old, no, too hefty." Faye Dunaway, I would say sure. She was the first person who was alone in the store he saw.
And also, like, I know it's awkward with our, our modern sensibilities, but we have two stars. They have to get together, and I think that that watching them get together overshadows this part of it, and not to be forgotten about it. But I don't know. I think that calling this rape sort of takes away from Faye Dunaway's character. I see it as two absurdly lonely people. That's what it more focuses on, who find this comfort in each other. I know that Faye Dunaway has a boyfriend, but based on the phone call that we hear one side of, it doesn't seem like, just anytime that she talks about him.
How she talks about him.
Yeah, it's not a loving relationship. She has a dad. She has a second dad. And that maybe that's what brings her to Robert Redford, but
I agree with Greg that I don't think it's full on rape. I think it's coerced sex, and there's fine lines. Not that makes it good, but that there's levels. But once she goes full bore with him and is on her own side missions for it, then you're like, she's fully in. There's no gun to her head anymore.
This is what's crazy about this, is that this takes place in the same year as Patty Hearst. Is that the same story with Patty Hearst? At some point, do you, even though you are like, you are brainwashed or you have brainwashed yourself, at some point, do you become complicit because you do participate in your own
I don't know
abduction?
enough about the Hearstness. I'm guessing she didn't hang out with those guys for a day before she was like, "Oh, I'm in."
Well, I know
if
that
so, then it's not brainwashing.
It's really complicated. Like, based on what I know about it, it's really complicated. And she was put in jail, or she was, accused and then got some sentence for her crimes, and then was pardoned, I think, by Bill Clinton, like 2 decades later.
What a legacy.
Yeah, because we learned so much about the impact that must have on somebody's brain.
Right.
I guess the part that bothers me in this movie is that it doesn't feel completely undigested. It feels half digested. The fact that he brings up the term rape, it feels like that's introducing it. The fact that Yobert says, "Was it because she was attractive that you took her?" It feels like the movie kind of engages with it, and then ultimately is kind of like, I don't know, and then leaves it on the table. And I think that if it were a conversation about how when a nation is threatened, it will do anything. It will license itself to do whatever it wants to do in its desire to protect itself. If it were a commentary on that, in a way, that would be pretty interesting if it were fully borne down on, and if the implications of that were fully fleshed out. Instead, he takes on the behavior of the government that he is questioning. He immediately seizes somebody under threat of violence and then coerces them to do exactly what he wants without the threat of violence ever really being fully lifted. That's interesting
Yeah, that's what makes the
Yeah, I think that leaves it really interesting.
But is the movie actually talking about that?
I definitely think it is. I absolutely think it is.
Because it feels to me then that it could lean on that a little bit more. It could question his behavior a little bit more. And part of that could be having Faye Dunaway not fall in love with him or not say about her boyfriend, well, he'll understand, which kind of makes it sound like she's saying that she herself has just fully accepted it.
Right. Just like so many Americans do.
So then it wasn't wrong. What he did, according to the movie, what he did wasn't wrong.
Yeah. I not that like time makes some things better. I do think who Robert Redford was and in the 70s and Faye Dunaway herself, her cutaways, when she was supposed to be scared of him, they filmed on a day he wasn't there, and Sidney Pollack played the role because her reactions to Robert Redford, and she is an amazing actress, were not believable because she was like, well, look how hot he is.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to be scared right now? And so to get her actual fear, Sidney Pollack had to pretend to hold a gun to her head. That's bananas.
Which is a lot of weird messages about all of this.
Hey, handsome guys, do what you want.
But so I just, if we question that element of the movie, I don't think it's just something that kind of happens in the movie and then it's like, yeah, but the movie's not even really about that. It's like it is half about it and half not about it. And that is what makes me feel like I can't really get over it or get past it because it's not fully investigated itself.
The movie definitely relies on Redford's charisma. And we've talked about this before, how much One Flew relied on Jack and how much if you listen to the bonus episodes, how much Robert Mitchum gets away with in the Yakuza just because he's a star. Like last week we did Shampoo, and Warren Beatty almost in non-star mode and like dumbed down star mode. This is just something that
full himbo energy
isn't around anymore. We don't have this anymore. And the movie relies on that, but I think it's okay because it's the movies, and I understand that we're nervous about the messages that it's sending, but what's important is to me, so much of this is Faye Dunaway's performance, and it's because I know Faye Dunaway from like Network and Bonnie and Clyde, where she is this loud, ball-busting Terminator, and here she's not, and it could come off as like coy or meek, but it doesn't at all. I think it just comes off as like smart and calm and waiting for her moment. And yeah, like you said before, Mike, a little like holding a little bit of the snark for whenever she needs it.
Yeah, I think her dashes of snark lets you know she's not fully out of control. And I think it is complicated. Greg, I don't want to say don't get what you're saying. If this movie came out today, if they did a remake,
it was Passengers with.
Yeah.
Was that Chris?
Oh,
Chris
didn't see that one. I was going to say it was Winter Soldier, but they took the Faye Dunaway part of it out of it. But yeah, Chris Pratt like kidnaps Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
But if it was Chris Hemsworth, a good Chris, and they did the whole sex thing, I do think the movie would have to tackle it dead on because of When We Are. I did think 75. It's shocking at all. They were starting to be like, "Is this weird?"
Yeah.
Well,
that and that's part of my point is like that. When we look at the movies of 75 and like the events of 75, it's very clear it's a nation trying to figure out its relationship. Like what is sexual assault? What is rape?
Right.
And it feels like the attitudes are so retrograde back then. And I guess now things are superficially a lot better, but I guess the same culture like is sort of undergirds both of them. And maybe that's part of what makes me uncomfortable is that superficially, I think we say better things about sexual assault and rape now, but it still kind of has the same role, which is that the culture foists these weird ideas on us. It's weird to hear Faye Dunaway be like, well, if Robert Redford kidnapped me, I wouldn't be. That's like, what? That's an uncomfortable set of.
But that's
and also
sure,
not something
but that's
that
also
she
something
means.
you say about a hot friend. Right? She's not actually like, okay, he has a gun to my head. Like she's not putting herself through that acting exercise.
It's an example of sparkling real life dialogue and not like a real thought.
But it feels like we are not going to get to the bottom of this topic, which is totally fine, because I think that already is elevating 3 Days of Condor more than just a popcorn flick. You can keep chewing on it. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, talk about a less controversial topic, recasting the Ghostbusters.
Mount Rushmore!
That's right, it's Mount Rushmore time, where we don't build a mountain to presidents, we build a mountain to something that means even more to everyday folks. This week it's Ghostbusters. What if Ghostbusters existed in 1975? We're building that mountain to those heads. Greg, your first submission.
I'll tell you what, we wouldn't have had the technology to trap them yet. So I don't know what the Ghostbusters would have done. Perhaps chase them with a broom.
Oh, naive Greg, thinking that it was all invented in the early 80s and the government didn't have all this technology already in 1975 and they were just keeping it from you.
I believe the government is ghosts, but we'll get to that later.
Whoa.
What you want is big stars, and hopefully they're going to be big comedy stars. So you're going to get butts in the seats, but you want those butts to be laughing.
I got to say, not a strong comedy year.
No.
Did comedies exist? Like, we had one, but it was a British independent movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that was all that was there.
Yeah, I just think that there was like one or two big stand-up comedians, but for the most part, I guess not a funny time.
Or it was coming from TV, which if you think about the original Ghostbusters, they were probably at that point seemed still more like TV stars than movie stars.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. So the first one I'm going with is George Carlin. I think he's got a real workaday streak, but also a real wisdom. And I think that that's sort of the line that Ghostbusters walks. Also, very big at this time, and so you know you're going to get people coming in just to see the Carlin factor.
Yeah, inarguable. George Carlin, right on that mountain, Greg.
Boom.
That's
Watch
how
out,
we do
ghosts.
You're going to get wisecracked too.
Yeah, I just think that there's something about like you could see him working for like the MTA, right? When they find him, or he's like a garbage man, and he's like, "It's basically the same thing as taking out the garbage." But then everything he says, you're like, "Wow, a lot of wisdom there, a lot of knowledge."
Everything he says, you're
roll.
like, "That was from your 1973 hour," but that's fine. Now it's in the movie. I guess that's okay.
You still wore a suit and had short hair then, so it's a different delivery. Ryan.
This is probably the new kid in the movie. This might be the person who gets recruited, but I don't know if there's anybody more popular, funnier, but like could put butts in seats, selling lunch boxes, selling merchandise, than one Henry Winkler.
The
Really?
Fonz.
The Fonz.
The absolute Fonz. Too short, probably. Ultimately, too short to do it. But how about if, like, okay, they got the thing shooting the thing, right? And it stops working, and he comes
How
over.
are we going to get that to start working again?
Gives it a little whack, right? Hey, right? Maybe he's on some ghost skis. He jumps over a ghost shark.
Oh, that's dope. Does he
Right?
have they're all in the uniform, but his is still made of, he's in an all leather jumpsuit with
Oh,
the Ghostbusters.
yeah. Wow, this has really got legs, Ryan.
I want you to think about this. Ghost, shark, ghost shark.
I'm
Now
thinking
he's
about
starting
it.
in a spin-off, and he's in a fight with the rest of the stars. He is on the maybe pile.
He's on the maybe pile, of course. This is just because you're a good host, Mike. Because you're a real good host.
I am a good host. I
Yeah.
think there's better options.
I wish
so
the
I'm
Fonz
hosting
could
well.
come and kick you so you could restart this episode.
It's weird. He kicked to the points, and Greg got a point for that. You smart Alec. Greg, throw another one on that mountain. Make
All right.
this pissy pants even more pissy.
I think we need a comic that has the sort of like movement vocabulary and the physicality to get this done. And also, I would like to, because 75 is actually not the least diverse decade of all time, where I've actually been surprised by that. So I want to make sure that we don't make the same mistake the original Ghostbusters did and only have dudes, right? I think there's room for ladies on this team.
Tread lightly. People don't love Ghostbuster ladies.
Classically, that has been true, but will they love a Ghostbuster lady who's played by Lily Tomlin? I think yes. If you remember, Lily Tomlin was in Nashville and brought a lot of physicality to that performance. She's in a few comedies in the 70s, and I think was generally highly regarded as a plus actress to put in your movie.
This is around the time of Laugh-In, right?
Yeah.
And she was on that.
Yeah, there you go. Right? So, like, she was on one of the premiere sketch comedy shows. There you go.
And she's a premiere spot on our maybe pile. Ryan.
But a preferred spot, right? She's like a preferred
Yeah.
maybe?
A preferred
Nice.
maybe.
I am placated.
I think I'm going to move and I understand the only way for me to get a point is to say Mike Gravano, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to move George Carlin to sort of the Dan Aykroyd role, because I think that I might have a better Venkman, somebody who is capable of being funny, but definitely selling those tickets. Everything that he was in the 70s was comedy adjacent, and he was always funny in them. Okay, and I just want to see somebody say something like, "Look at all those ghosts, man. Where are they? Let's kill them."
That's a pretty good impression.
Christian Slater?
I swear to God, this is the fourth time we've done this bit in the 1975 season.
But I think people listen for our Christian Slater comedy.
Yeah, we like Raz and Christian Slater, and that's what you come for. So Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson was one of, if not the biggest star of the 70s. And yeah, like, I can't think of a role throughout this decade where if he wasn't in a comedy, he was at least the one getting the laughs in a non-comedy.
Now, is there any worry because he kind of becomes a ghost in The Shining? Are we worried at all, or can we use that? Right? Maybe, like, has there ever been a Ghostbuster who's a fucking ghost? Slimer, yeah, Slimer is. So
Slimer's
a
not
ghost.
a ghost, but
Maybe he
that's
could
if
be
you're
the
looking at the
Slimer.
cartoon.
yeah,
Which
A
is
potato
canon,
head?
fool.
So-
yeah, it's the real. This is
Onion
the
head.
real
Onion head.
Ghostbuster. Yeah.
Where are we going to get a shark, though, for this ghost shark in 1975?
Jabberjaw.
What famous shark?
It's Jabberjaw.
Oh, it's, of course, Jabberjaw, the most famous shark of pop culture in 1975.
Yeah, Jackie Ann is one of our Ghostbusters. So why don't you more cry about it, Ryan?
Wow.
Greg?
Okay. Let's see. We're kind of it's getting to be what they call, and excuse me for saying so, nut cutting time. So I want to make sure I bring
Careful
my
with that
nuts.
razor.
Do you say Pauly Shore?
Okay. This is an up and comer. Okay, in 75.
So is this for the Rick Moranis role or an official Ghostbuster?
He's on his way. You know what? This would be great for Rick Moranis, but I was thinking official Ghostbuster. I was thinking Steve Martin. Steve Martin, not ready for primetime player, right? SNL mainstay, and great physical actor. Imagine him with the blaster, just shooting it everywhere, and
just a laser beam through his head. all
yeah,
the time.
right. I think there's a lot of possibilities here.
Steve Martin fits nicely on that maybe pile.
That's like a nice way to say no.
Ryan?
I'm realizing.
I think it's a mean way to say no. Okay, so why don't we talk about who was really popular for once in our fucking lives? Why don't we talk about what was really going on? Who was on the street preaching the truth? Who was out there as a stand-up comedian, as a poet, and as a rapper, maybe possibly inventing rap? In the 75 Scramble that Greg talked about on this episode?
Yes.
Okay. Where Greg ran to his motorcycle and his sidecar. Mike, I believe you backflipped into your convertible, and I slid across the hood and then jumped into the front seat of my car, and we all drove away in circles selecting movies.
Yeah, that part of it didn't really add up, but that's what we did.
We did it in the middle of an old Blockbuster video.
Yeah.
I watched Dolomite, and I think that Rudy Ray Moore would make an excellent addition to this Ghostbusters team.
Was he Dolomite from Dolomite?
He was Dolomite from Dolomite.
All right, Rudy Ray Moore on that maybe pile. Greg?
Did that movie totally get screwed by this show that we didn't consider it
Nope.
at all? No? Okay. I'm ready to move right on from that as well. Okay, let's see. Who have I got? Okay, this is going to sound crazy at first, but the more you think about it, the more you'll think it's going to be a great choice.
Roger Ebert.
We're looking for every man, and we're getting different flavors of comedy, right? We want different flavors so they can play off each other. Bob Newhart.
All right. You each get one more, I guess. Or Ryan, go, and then you each get one more.
I'm going to, just to, because I love eliciting that reaction from Mike, I'm going to go from what Greg said, and I'm going to say Carol O'Connor. I think him as...
Oh, wait, that's Archie Bunker?
That's Archie Bunker.
Yeah.
No. I put them on the maybe pile, but it's because I didn't write a trash pile. All right. Speed round, you each get one. Speedily say one.
Andy Kaufman.
All right, we're building our Moranis role. And Ryan.
And for my Moranis role, I have Al Pacino.
Nobody at the time would know it, but he'd be so perfect for that.
Ghostbusters.
Okay, I'm only going to do this once. So your maybe pile is Henry Winkler, Lily Tomlin, Steve Martin, Rudy Roymore, Raymore, Bob Newhart, and Carol O'Connor. Greg, cut somebody.
Rudy Raymore.
Rude. E is gone. Ryan, cut somebody.
One of Greg's.
Bob Newhart. Everyone made fun of me for that one, so that might be a good one.
Greg, cut somebody.
Who would one of Ryan's guys?
Carol O'Connor's gone.
Carol O'Connor, gone. No, not a Ghostbuster.
All right, we got Henry Winkler, Lily Tomlin, Steve Martin, Ryan, cut somebody.
I think, well, now it's just going to be whatever. I think that this is a little early for Steve Martin.
I agree. So, your Ghostbusters are George Carlin, Jack Nicholson, Henry Lee Winkler. I'm adding one you fucking fools didn't put on here. Gene Wilder, and your Moranis is Andy Kaufman. That's your Ghostbusters of 1975. Gene Wilder, 1974, he was in Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. This guy is hot comedian.
How about
fools.
Richard Pryor? Nobody said Richard Pryor.
Nobody said Richard Pryor. Henry Winkler's gone. I said Richard Pryor. I just didn't want to do it twice because you guys chose so wrong the whole time. There's your goddamn Ghostbusters. Your jackasses were out.
Yes, I am the whiny bitch.
In the beginning of the movie, the Condor is a bookish, wisecracking, comic-loving analyst. By the end, he's a deadly serious master of spycraft who has no time for laughs and stays 10 steps ahead of his enemies. Is this a natural arc to the character, given his extreme circumstances? Or does Redford's natural leading manness overtake the characterization they originally created for the Condor?
The whole idea of him as like a bookish, like they're like, let's throw some glasses on that. Ah, yes, now he's a reader. And then they put him in a pea coat that nobody has ever worn a coat the way this man wears this coat.
Fucking sexually?
Like, yeah, it is so hard to see him as just a bookish, nerdy type. He has like, he's so effortlessly charming. I think that in a way, he's so effortlessly charming that it does get in the way of his characterization.
Yeah, and I think, Mike, if you listen to your question, you did just sort of sum up Bourne Identity, or the Bourne franchise. Although he was trained in the past, you know, it is sort of like, oh my God, what situation am I in right now? But the movie that I kept thinking about was Die Hard, because Die Hard, we feel like Die Hard is the original everyman in an action role, you know? But this was that before that, and I think it's important to note that how out of the way the movie goes in the first 10 minutes to show, like, this is you. This is not some CIA high up old, like, Navy SEAL. This is fucking you.
They make him a big Dorcas, and I liked that. It's that they lose that. So in Die Hard, he never, even when he's like swinging on chains against giant German mercenaries, he is quipping and getting hurt. And Robert Redford, in the beginning, they make him very dorky. His witty repartee versus the kids trying to steal his bike is casually being like, so what's on your mind? And when they just look at him, he goes, okay, as they run away. Like, that all goes away. And he's sort of that kind of charm, and it becomes sultry charm.
I think the point the movie is making is that he has such an open, like, caring attitude towards everybody, and that he trusts everyone in his life. And that's why he says, like, I don't like not being able to talk about my job because I actually trust people. And I think that he has, like, no callous...
And doesn't rape them.
And does not rape them. He has no calluses to protect himself against, like, what it feels like to be with people and then not trust them. And then all of a sudden, he can't trust anybody at all. And so, yeah, it makes him very humorless. It reminded me a little bit of the short story Young Goodman Brown. Like, he finds out that there is evil in the world, that the people around him participate in this evil, and that he can never go back to seeing the world the other way. And so he is like, in Young Goodman Brown, he is lost then because he doesn't know how to be with people anymore. And I think at the end of the movie, he maybe opens up again, because I think that his giving the information to the press, I think, is a sign that he trusts something or he trusts in somebody. But for the most part, he's humorless because he has completely lost his ability to connect to other people.
So it's more of an arc and less of Redford forgetting that he's supposed to
I
be
think
bored.
so, yeah. I think it's somebody who is devastated by, in a very real way, by the death of like all his coworkers, by the fact that he escapes through the dumbest of dumb luck because it happens to be raining and he happens to go out that back door
in a very sneaky way. Like he makes that
he has
face
to
to the
sneak.
guard, like
because he's not supposed to go out that way. And if he were allowed to go out that way, they would have had that exit covered. But because it's like such a weird way to leave the building, that's the only reason he's alive. And so to become that aware also of like, I just almost died and I'll never have my life back. I will never go back to the way I was before.
The way we were.
The way we were.
The other thing that makes it, you can see that how normal he is because throughout all of the times he's on the phone, he's learning. Like when he's talking to headquarters, he's like, "Where are you?" And he's like, "Nope, you almost got me, but I'm trying to remember that I can't just fucking give you information." And that leads all the way to the biggest part. The part that was very confusing to me the first time I saw this was he talking to Faye Dunaway at the end. He's like, "Hey, but you're gonna right?" And she's like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, "You're not gonna tell anybody because I still need some time." And he's like, "Oh shit, never mind. I'm sorry. I'm still acting like that agent instead of this person that I'm tight with." You know. The other thing I wanted to bring up, like, is as far as the everyman thing is, and how this is us. You know, the
just weepy Mandy Moore.
How
every
this
Tuesday
is
night on ABC.
weepy Mandy Moore.
The book reading public
is because we think that we could be superheroes because of how many superhero movies we've seen. Most of his training comes from spy books. That's what he's dedicated his life to reading and code breaking. And he hasn't just been trying to find what countries are, sending secret messages to each other, but he's also been learning about how to be a spy from these books, which I think is the most us thing. Like, I think that's the most prescient message of the entire movie is how we all think we're spies and superheroes now.
And I like that. That's a good argument. Both of you are making good arguments against me. I think I'm too used to the marvelization of trauma and the diehardness of the everyman, which is, I'm going to quip right after my best friend died. And much more is like, well, I'm going to clam up and try to kill everybody around me because that's how you actually deal with things. Good job, guys.
We did it.
Good job. You convinced me. I really was just like, they just couldn't deal with how handsome Robert Redford was.
But that is...
couldn't let him be adored.
That is not true. Like, I do think that it's important that there was a time where stars... we just let, as the audience, let stars walk around in their world and get away with fucking anything because they were goddamn stars.
He's almost too handsome to comprehend. Like he's like a perfect person in this movie. The way he looks, it's distracting.
You know what's weird is that he's less classically chiseled than Brad Pitt, which makes him way more handsome than Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I think his lack of symmetry makes him more handsome. His crags, his rough edges,
and it's a very 70s
like,
attractive too, because you couldn't be. There's like no affect in 70s attraction.
I was in awe of his hair. I was like, how do you do that? Could I do that?
Didn't he just come in from the
That's
rain? Why does his hair look like that? What's going on?
Robert goddamn
just
Redford.
Like short Farrah Fawcett on Robert Redford's head. Well, you guys convinced me, and I was wrong, and that I think that means that's a good segment. So we're going to stop it right now before you can prove me more wrong. It is everybody's favorite part of the show, Director Drafts.
Director Draft.
We say it every time that for every director one of our compatriots gets, we cannot see their movies. And only this week, for some reason, did it hit me. And now I'm bummed. I ignored the fact that you guys say that every time. And only this week, because I think I was looking at the docket of movies coming out to theaters, and I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah,
I've been trying to keep track of what we have for the rest of the year. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard to do. I'm also trying to think of, we'll just have an on-air production meeting real quick.
Sure.
Trying to think of some game we can play where we have winners and losers. We don't care about Oscars. In fact, this show is basically anti-Oscars, better than the Oscars. We don't really care about box office, but let's figure out something where we can determine winners and losers.
Like who won?
Yeah.
If you look at the docket of the movies coming out on my team in 2021, I think I seem like the short-term winner.
And that's the thing too, is that it could be a game that starts forever. No, you have one now, Mike. or
Oh,
like
one now.
it goes forever, or it goes by year.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems the kind of thing we have to check in over and over again because some of us, I think, have legacy directors that maybe have 1 or 2 good movies left in them. And then some of us have, and then there's some of the younger directors that we've picked have like 7, 10 movies left in them.
I think that's a really good drafting strategy.
Denis Villeneuve. I'm sorry. Greg, say his name?
Villeneuve.
Villeneuve.
And isn't it Dooney Villaduni now?
Yeah.
Dude, the stuff they're
Dune.
saying sounds pretty good, everybody, about Dune. They're saying the right things.
I think his career is chock full
Yes.
of bangers.
Yeah. I think,
So,
between
fuck.
Blade Runner 2049 and now what people are saying about Dune, shit, I'm excited. Excited for my boy.
All right, Greg, who else are you going to be excited about? You're kicking us off.
These are scary rounds of the draft, everybody, because they're like, we've knocked out a lot of like the heavy hitters, but this is like where I think teams are going to be made and lost. And I'm a little afraid. You got to get a little speculative here, but there are still good names out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you have to remember them when it's your turn to pick.
I'm trying to think of these rounds. I don't know if you guys are doing this, but like this is where you really put the you in it. You know, like the top 18 that have been picked are like probably our collective top 18.
Right.
About roughly, but like who are you now? You know? Who the fuck do you think you are?
Who do you think you are? And I'm
Mr.
going to
big stuff.
I'm going to go with my first pick today is going to be Greta Gerwig.
Shit.
So this is one where I feel like I'm getting a future of wonderful movies.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to have her on my team. But it's looking at names like Greta Gerwig and seeing that like this is probably my last chance to get this name. There's like the 2 or 3 names I'm gonna miss because I picked Greta Gerwig.
Mm-hmm.
It's harrowing. These are tough.
But no, I think that's a great pick this far in. Her star is only rising.
And I feel like there's enough of a body of work to where I feel comfortable that it's there.
Yeah.
You know, the magic is there.
Well, yeah, I mean, what you also too, because she's essentially Frances Ha in my mind. You just have to pray that she's not like, never mind, no more directing for me.
Yeah.
It's like, ah, shit.
Back to acting.
I think we all have to hope that Lady Bird 2 Sacramento Nights turns out to be as
They're
good a movie.
detectives together now. All right, my first pick. I'm going to go with somebody who I like 90% of his career. I'm iffy sometimes, but he always makes fucking interesting movies, and I would be devastated if I couldn't see anything else by him. Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah, dude, I can't believe that he lasted this long.
Get him to the Greek. And by him, I mean me, and the Greek is Yorgos. He did. He's the Favorite is his biggest, but then Killing of the Sacred Deer, The Lobster, Dogtooth is the first thing I watched by him. It's the fucking weirdest movie that haunts me. I haven't seen it in years, and I think about it all the time.
Pretty haunting too. There's some parts of Lobster that are nuts.
Now, Mike, I had heard that you were told that your dad watches The Killing of a Sacred Deer in a weird way. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he watches it where he just sits down on a couch and presses play, and so I thought that connected me to my dad because that's how I watch movies. I just sit on the couch and press play, and I realized that's how everybody watches movies. Ryan,
that must have been heartbreaking for you.
it broke my goddamn heart.
I saw the Eternals trailer last night, and that fucking kid came out, and I still can't imagine him without a plate of spaghetti in his face.
I don't know how he's allowed to be in any other movie and not be a fucking
Other
movie
than
weirdo.
The Sacred Deer franchise. Okay, so those are 2 great picks, guys. I'm going to do what Greg said. I think I'm going to pick a veteran and a newcomer. No, I'm not. I'm going to start with Charlie Kaufman.
Ooh, good one.
I know that I don't get screenplay written only. You know, it's not like if he writes it and Spike Jonze directs it, then I'm fucked. But this is such a big guy for all 3 of us, I think.
Yeah.
And it's such an event for all 3 of us. That it would be so fucking terrible if you guys got to see his movies and I didn't. So instead, only I can see them and talk to neither one of you about them.
I thought we were all being gentlemen and like decided, well, let's none of us pick him so we can all keep watching his movies together. No, that's fine.
Could you imagine not having seen I'm thinking of ending things? This is the grim future that awaits us.
But it's now official.
Yeah, now.
Well, you can't see I'm thinking of ending things too.
I'm still
The
thinking
Sacramento
of ending
Nights.
The Killing of Another Sacred Deer. Why don't all 3 of our 7th round picks please get together and make something?
Because then we can watch it.
Okay, so I think that I am going to go here with this is. I'm not going to get to pick for so long.
Yeah.
And I think that I could actually wait longer on this. Mike, you had Guillermo del Toro in the 6th round.
Yeah.
But I think you waited. He's one of your favorite directors, but you just knew that me and Greg
We're
weren't
being
going to
nice
take
to
him.
me. Yeah.
I think I could wait a little bit longer on this. I don't think this guy is necessarily. But I'm going to take David Fincher.
No, Fincher's been taken. He's already on your team.
I'm taking Roger Ebert.
I'm 90% sure you got David Fincher already.
I meant to say Martin Scorsese.
That makes sense.
See, this is one where, like, obviously at this point, elder statesman, but I do feel like you're looking at
2 or 3. I'm
Yeah.
open for 2 or 3.
I think
maybe as many as 5.
a rock doc and 2 good movies, and then 1 weird one.
He's got Flowers of the Killer Moon coming out this year, and just to not be able to see that would kill me. I think that has Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio, his two acting muses
those
together.
are his guys.
Am I right when I assume that Robert De Niro will only appear with computer-generated soft face now? From now on, when you hear De Niro's going to be in a movie.
He's like, that's how I feel truest to myself.
I have an old face, Greg. Could you make me look younger?
But I think that, like, we could do this for 20, 30 rounds, and
Yes.
I could clean up with all of these new kids on this block.
Joey, Kevin, the
Bob,
Bob New Kid. He let them use their practice space.
but only if I can be in the band.
Yeah, but I'm in the band. I'm Bob New Kid.
It's tearing up my
Just-
heart when I'm with you.
in the back in the shadows. Barely there. You can see a cane every once in a while.
But no, it would kill me if I didn't see Scorsese's last. And there's still a couple of like old school masters out there. And if this is a fantasy sports drafting, if you guys all want these rookies, I'll just sweep up the veterans.
I think I could wait longer on this next one, but I want to see his next movie so bad and refuse to not see it. So I think I have to now. And this is, as you've said, it's time to get us. The stock has been lowering on him, but Last Night in Soho looks so dope. I'm getting Edgar Wright because anything Anya Taylor-Joy is in, gonna have to see.
Yeah, this is another one that we just thought you would take.
Yeah. I think you were talking about Guillermo, and forever I thought you guys were talking about Edgar Wright. And I was like, no, I know how you both don't like him, so I can sit on that.
And love him. Just not.
Love
I don't
him.
feel like he makes up my core like he makes up yours. You know.
Yeah. Like you'd be crazy not to enjoy any of the Cornetto trilogy, but obviously it was way more formative for you, Mike.
Yeah, I love Cornettos, and he's the one director who's spoken to that.
Well, him and Yorgos.
And honestly, like the way he makes movies, it reminds me a little bit of this podcast. You know, he obviously loves movies, and not just the ones that are like classically very good, but also the ones that are like so stupid and
Dumb
over
as
the
hell.
top that it's also like entertaining.
All right, Greg, your last pick.
Okay, I can't believe this guy is still available. And also, I don't feel like it's the Greggiest pick ever, but really, the more I thought about it, the more he kind of is. I don't watch many horror movies, but I have seen both of his horror movies. Jordan Peele.
Oh, shit.
He's only made 2 movies. The third one is coming out, but the name just suddenly escapes me. I've only seen the poster for it. I don't know if anybody else has seen anything more than that at this
Is
point.
it like we or boo?
It's called like They or something like that. But just the idea that he has a new movie coming out is exciting. I think that obviously Us generated in the moment a lot of excitement, and then I think that it cooled, and maybe his stock has dropped because of that. I think that he is going to come screaming back, and the idea that I have the rest of his oeuvre and you guys can't see any of it.
I think a couple things. One, for Greg to see 2 horror movies from the same director in the modern age is just absolutely
That's
insane.
nuts, right? Yeah.
It's phenomenal. And 2, I remember all of the Us buzz died down, and then way after, as is our wont, we did a podcast about it, and it lit us all up again.
Yeah, it's so fun to talk about.
You know, and like we just got to continue the conversation way longer than anybody else. I don't think it's as good as Get Out. I don't know if anybody does at this point, but what a onion. What a cracker.
Yeah. He's a cracker and an onion, as Ryan says.
Ultimately,
I'm
Us
very
is a
poor.
movie that decides not to have answers. And I think that's going to leave it with a legacy that is tough, but also kind of exciting because there's so much going on in Us, and you can argue that it means one thing or another. But the movie is
how rare these days.
It's pointedly internally inconsistent. I think a lot of people gave it flack for that, but I think that's the idea. I think that movie stock is going to rise over the maybe not in the next couple of years, but over the next 5 or 10.
When people stop wanting easy answers.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll ever eclipse Get Out or anything. I'm not saying that, but I just think that people are going to come back to this movie and be like, "Oh, okay, he was kind of going for this open-endedness. He was going for this confusion." And I think I see why now because violence and confusion are really part of the modern American condition.
While this bums me out that I cannot see more Jordan Peele movies, Ryan and I have the rest of horror we can still watch.
Yeah,
Greg does not. So this seems fair. And his next movie is called Nope.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, dude.
So,
Nope.
Love it.
Think about that sentence or that conversation. Get Out. Us? Nope. Okay, good. All right, so we're fine.
But, like, knowing that he is going to make a movie, probably a scary movie called Nope, like, that's probably going to be my reaction, but I'm the only one who's allowed to see it, so I have to.
I hope it's
screaming in your apartment. Nope.
I hope it's a horror movie about monsters that come out when you're carrying plates of food, and they just slap them out and say, nope.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more Condor. Taste Buds, 3 days of the Condor hit a nerve with audiences because it tackled the paranoia about government that regular-ass citizens were feeling at the time. 45 years later, does the movie still ring true in that regard?
I did read an interview with Sidney Pollack where he was like, we just thought this was some cool, fucked up shit. And then Watergate came out. I say that like it's a different movie.
Watergate dropped,
and we were like, oh, man, did we strike on something? And, yeah, I think it's... I don't think we've ever really recovered.
Right. It's one of those things where people stop trusting.
Do you think
go,
that...
like, for no reason, like, oh, let's trust now. There's no, like, president has been so good. We haven't had another Camelot yet.
But I do think that the Republicans have done, or the conservatives have done a good job of being like, we're all equally untrustworthy. Why not untrust us?
Do you think there is some sort of modern salience to a movie about a big government conspiracy to get us embroiled in a war in the Middle East so that we could procure their oil? Do you think that, like, centered primarily around the World Trade Center? Do you think there's any sort of, like, resonance in our modern times for that?
Yeah, a secondary question is it possible for a movie that came out 26 years pre-9 to be so much about 9/11?
Is
this shortcuts that we don't know about?
9/11. It's so long to say 9/11. People just started saying 9
syllables.
This movie seems like, I don't know, like it's like when people realized that in 93 blew up like the World Trade, and people were like, how did Biggie know that the World Trade was going to blow up?
Well, he knew history, assholes.
By being centered around and so prominently featuring the World Trade Center, and then being about like big conspiracies and getting like potentially, I mean, the idea that Robert Redford is like, are we going to maybe go to the war in the Middle East? That used to be a question that people would be like, are we? I don't know.
And this movie is basically like if in 2035 we got into a war over unobtainium. We were like, Avatar knew what is up.
I love that when the guy who he sort of can trust, or he's trying to figure out if he can trust with the mustache, the guy's like, you just stumbled onto a plan I didn't even know about. I didn't know about it. It's a great plan out of back to two. Like,
did you guys recognize him, by the way?
No.
Max Sydow?
The Higgins with the mustache?
Oh.
Higgins. Is it John Michael Higgins?
It's John Michael Higgins because they have the same last name. Good job, Mike. Give yourself a point. That's Uncle Ben from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Oh, my God.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
You have to add a lot of years and a lot of, like, sun crust to the face, but...
sun crust. Gross. Max van Sydow is Haber.
Yeah.
Which I didn't think about this till Greg said his name. What's the sheriff, the cop from Les Mis?
Javert? It's obviously taken off of that guy, right?
Well, I didn't think about it until Greg said his name. So good job, Mike.
Similar to, but he is such an interesting figure. His like, he made me think of a little bit from No Country for Old Men. What's that? Sherger. like sort of just like
Yeah.
a total like free agent that everybody can hire. But when you see him, you're like, wait, who are you currently working for? And then himself really just like, yeah, I'm just like whoever's paying me now, and whatever their exact specifications of the mission are. I will do exactly what you paid me to do, and then I won't do anything else, even if I know it's going to hurt you.
Dream. I'm sure everybody watches this and wants to be Robert Redford. I want this guy's life. What's so bad? What a cool code, man.
The other iconic line that it reminded me of was because at the end, he finishes his job. Robert Redford is his job, or the Condor is his job for the whole movie, and then it's not, and then he carries out his job. The Condor no longer is, so they're just like, Max von Sydow was like, hey, man, you want to ride? Like,
yeah.
Do you want to go to Denny's or what? And it reminded me of Elliot Ness at the end of The Untouchables. Just like, Prohibition was repealed. What are you going to do? And he's like, oh, I'm going to go have a drink. You know, like, I fought so hard against all of these bootleggers, and now that the law is repealed, it's just the law, man. It's just whatever my law is.
And you can see Redford's eyebrows like lower, his shoulder like relax, like he goes back and forth, like, is he going to kill me? Is he not? No, he truly just has a code that I don't quite understand.
Well,
so
you know what
when
other
he hands him
movie
the
it
gun,
is?
when Von Sydow hands him the gun, Robert Redford's like, what the fuck is happening?
And the movie it reminded me of is Pollock's other 75 movie, The Yakuza, where it's like, you know, sometimes you hire me and I will I'll be on your side. Sometimes we'll be opposed. And in the meantime, I don't see why we can't be friends.
Right.
Like we have the same job. We're kind of coworkers.
It's like when you see a Yankee on first base and then the Red Sox guy playing first base and they're talking. It's like, what
they're just chatting.
Fuck?
No, you should be fighting. You should be punching each other.
I hope you're insulting each other's children.
Get your goddamn samurai swords and fight on the diamond.
I love that Max von Sydow was like, how predictable that you were here. And then he's like, so you came to kill me? And he's like, oh, no. They didn't know you were going to be here.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to be here.
And he's like, he freely admits, he's like, yeah, they really would want me to kill you. But they don't know that you're here and they haven't asked me to kill you. They're not paying me to kill you. So I'm definitely not going to. But this is going to fuck them hard.
And then one of the fourth endings that we get, and I think really great 4 endings. Like, this is not like a Lord of the Rings Return of the King situation. Like, this is, it keeps like,
no character suddenly starts singing.
Right. Or Robert Redford never walks into a 3-foot tall home. But Von Sydow was right. Higgins is like, you stupid motherfucker, you gave this to the press, you don't know what you've done. Von Sydow knew, they definitely want me to kill you. It's just that they didn't specifically tell me that, so I'm not going to.
Can I ask a question? Is that allowed? Does it get
Taste buds?
Do you think it gets published? Like, do you think that No, right? Like, there's no way that believe me, the CIA has plants in news organizations, and there's this is too big a story, I think, in the world of this movie.
But you can see on Redford's face, like, after Higgins said that, he's like, you shut up. Like, no, shut up. It'll happen.
I think in that moment he realizes he accidentally trusted somebody again. That his whole plan was not to trust, and that he had now done the ultimate act.
But how many times in American history has the New York Times gotten a story that they absolutely had to bury, and we didn't find out about what that story was for 30 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's owned by a big, rich, influential
We're starting
family.
to become a different type of podcast.
Because when did the Post happen? Not come out. The Post came out a couple years back.
The Pentagon Papers, so it was right about here.
So, like 73.
I mean, I think it's a fucking coin toss. Who decided they could maybe get fired for trying to publish this? Like, post Watergate, post the Post.
Okay,
the Pentagon Papers is what everybody else calls it.
Secondary question: does he, in that moment where they do the freeze frame, does he think the press is going to publish it? I feel like he did think that they were going to publish it right up until the very last second of the movie,
too,
and then he's like, "Fuck, no, you're right, they're not." And that's the last.
That's
image
why he
we
turns
have.
around and looks like, God damn it, Higgins, you've done it again.
He's going to move to like Arizona and shave his gorgeous locks.
But what you do is you move to Arizona and you start a podcast, and then you get the truth out, and everyone totally believes you.
Everybody loves people screaming on mics in the middle of the desert.
Dude,
That's
I believe
definitely where to
anything
rely on.
anyone from Arizona says. I'm a big fan of the Cyber Ninjas and all the good
I'm
work
crazy
they're
for
doing.
AZ.
Oh, right. We all know what that sound means. It is time for the speed round. Love or hate this movie, could it be argued that it is the perfect end to our 75 season?
Yeah, I think it caps off 75 pretty effectively. Like, even the things about it that we hate are because they're so 75.
And I'm so glad, Mike, to quote you, I believe. I
have a dream.
Nice to end on a crackerjack movie. like it could have been Tarkovsky's Mirror, and that would have been different. But this, just to have like a popcorn movie that has all of the 75 aspects from paranoia, is it rape? Men taking over, having a star, having a director that sort of cares, sort of doesn't. I think this was perfect.
One of the most famous scenes of the movie has nothing to do with spying, oil, or the CIA. It's Redford and Dunaway looking at her photos. Why does this scene resonate so much, if at all?
I think in part because it really gets to the fact that he is good at understanding. That when he encounters art, he sees right to the core of it right away.
Does not enjoy any part of it.
Yeah, but that he has...
Well, it's art. Nobody enjoys it.
He has profound clarity of vision.
And I mean,
his understanding is like... It also lets the audience know that his understanding is unimpeachable. That we have him there with an artist, and she's confirming, damn, you got this picture, definitely.
And like the books that he reads and also the pictures that he looks at are black and white, and that's how he sees things.
Snap.
Like this, it's very clear what's going on. But it also, like, what they...
I did not think that was clear. Holy shit.
What it does
Smart.
what it does introduce is Faye Dunaway's loneliness, and then Robert Redford has an in with her, and I think that's imperative to the relationship. Like, she has an all-time quote, which is, I didn't think that I was lonely, but I am the one that took these pictures, so I guess I am lonely. And like that's such a crazy quote about art, and I don't know, that is my favorite line from the movie.
Yeah, and definitely like that is the quality of good art, right? That it can reveal things that the artist would never have intended to be revealed or didn't know that was inside them.
What is the point of Turner being a reader? How does the movie make use of this set of skills? Is it dumb that he is a page turner and his name is Turner?
Yeah, that was almost a little too cute style, but I guess that because his first name is not actually Page.
It's Joe. Did you prefer his last name to be Mama?
He gets away with it. I think it goes to what we were saying before, just that maybe what we needed at the moment was for somebody to read culturally what the messages were that were being sent out, right? If you read the texts of 75, you're like, okay, this is a culture like in distress, and maybe we need to do something. And so I think that like putting him in that role foregrounds that.
And keep in mind, Mike, that this is like 3 years after Dirty Harry. Like, we have done the whole violent killer thing, and I think this fits perfectly with Dog Day too. Like, we all have this idea of who heroes and villains should be, and then for 3 days to have us again as the hero, and for Dog Day to have this not mastermind, not evil mustache twisting villain, but instead Al Pacino. I think that was not just important for us in 75 because we never knew what was right and what was wrong, but also for storytelling. Like, it really did change everything forever, where we could have nuanced heroes and villains. This was not happening in America in the 50s and 60s.
How much better would the world be if Robert Redford had become president instead of Ronald Reagan?
Oh, bro. Well, I guess it would become Watchmen, right?
Yeah, I mean, isn't the point of Watchmen 2019 is that it becomes differently the same terrible?
What about no Hollywood star ever becoming president?
No, that's crazy. People want to see a president up there they've seen on the TV.
MAGA, Greg, MAGA.
I trust him there. I trust him up there. I need Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman does have the penchant of when he gives a big speech rhyming it like he did in Independence Day, and I do appreciate that.
Isn't it bullshit more presidents don't rhyme when they give any fucking State of the Union? With the amount of reading that Redford's character does throughout the movie, should his codename have been Condor?
Oh, take that. A little saucy.
Oh, I think
fire a shot across the bow.
I think Greg is also a condork based on how he's reacting to this.
How is this movie in conversation with Pollock's other movie from 75, The Yakuza?
But, I mean, Greg mentioned a little bit before about honor, right? And just like how we... what our word means and what our true north is. I think that's very important to Pollock, is what is your true north and how will you betray it? And then also the typical stuff that we always say about, like, what does it mean to be masculine? What is that definition, and how? At what point do you go against the typical masculinity and go for a modern version of masculinity?
This to me feels like a movie. 3 Days of Condor feels like turning away from people And the Yakuza, I have to say, it feels like turning two people. You know, I mean, the Yakuza is about building up relationships and about doing whatever it takes to make those relationships stronger and lasting. This is about like cutting yourself off from fucking everybody because nobody can be trusted, and every person around you it might just be somebody who betrays you. So
Damn right.
they're kind of like diametrically opposed in that way.
I also think that
Hawk
these
was having a hell of a year.
Yeah, dude, this guy's all over the place.
I think these two movies might be in some ways more disparate though than like a year where you direct Schindler's List and Jurassic Park. I mean, like the Yakuza could have come out in the late 60s and still felt a little creaky, and 3 Days could have come out 5 years after this. Like, I think Pollock is very inspired by the times and very inspired by his screenwriters, and these don't seem like they're made by the same person.
No, I mean, Yakuza is very pointedly looking back into the past, right? And this movie is very pointedly looking forward into the future. Accurately, we can say now from the future.
Yeah.
So, like, it's. I think that in a way, that stylistic choice is kind of interesting to have one movie which is about, you know, conservative old notions feel older as well.
And yeah, of course, it's a hell of a year. He got both movies talked about on Movie of the Year, 1975.
Hey, Sid, you won, baby.
Yeah, did it.
Is this a Christmas movie?
Yeah, dude. There's in the background there are several people wearing like Santa's caps.
And a lot of the score,
Confirmed Christmas
if you want to
movie.
call it the score, is Christmas carols.
Yeah, old Saint Vonkelvoss is definitely one of the songs. How crazy is it that this movie came out leading the KGB to maybe now we read every book, leading the U.S. to say now we have an office that reads every book?
I mean, Dog Day Afternoon invented how we handle hostage situations, right? It's crazy how everyone was watching movies in 1975, including
taking notes.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, the movie is kind of about how that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
That because if you understand art, then you de facto understand people. So.
I could see every country watching this movie and being like, "That's stupid." Wait,
Does that work?
It's not.
though?
No, like
Wait,
we should do
And
it.
meanwhile, by the way, the reason like they were hiding codes in the books. It wasn't just that he read the books of the people and then understood them. They were hiding secret codes in there. It wasn't just reading. It was code search.
But did he, Greg, every time he read a book, say "done" and spike it on the ground as hard as he could?
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
That was a cut scene. He just has a big pile of burnt, ripped books next to him.
I thought they were writers in the beginning. And they were feeding their writing into a computer that was judging their writing. And that's the computer I want to see.
This is
Let's make that
very
movie.
derivative.
How quickly would you die if you were in Turner's position?
Oh, right away. Definitely. I probably would have walked into the crime scene and then just died of a heart attack.
Found that gun in the secretary's desk and just killed yourself.
Bam! Oh, crap.
When he walks in, he sees somebody bloody on the ground. He's like, "What you doing, you crazy nut?"
You big
Like-
pranker. You big. Is Ashton Kutcher here? Am I being punked?
Did
What's
I
going
miss
on
him
here?
saying, "I'm the security guard and this is Jackass"? Oh, man. I missed such a good time. And then somebody just falls down the stairs.
I'm dead.
I think I would have died on the way to lunch, slipping in the rain. I'm not
Yeah.
an agile person.
We don't
Does the
handle
movie-
weather.
We're from California, god damn it. Does the movie argue that the toughest thing you can do is be understanding?
Yeah, it seems to be like that. She says about Faye Dunaway says about her boyfriend, Robert Redford, or Turner's like, what's he gonna do? And she's like, understand. And he's like, damn,
Yeah,
that's good.
boss.
And then part of what I think he likes about that is he's like, that's what I'm good at doing.
Yeah.
And so I think the whole point of the movie, and if you think about it, it's a movie, but also it's based on a book, right? This is all somebody writing a book about how cool it is to be a writer and a reader, and like how that makes you that's really the best thing you could be. You're a good secret agent. You're a
Just-
good lover.
Just like every other movie's about how being a filmmaker is the
Yeah.
single coolest thing you could do, for sure. Yeah, and then there's also this question about tough. Is your boyfriend tough? And I do think that Robert Redford is trying to measure himself up against the boyfriend.
Oh, sure.
But I don't like Faye Dunaway's answer of, no, he really is. Like, it fucking sucks, but he is. I mean, Robert Redford is the gentle lover of these two. You know, just imagine that.
I am imagining it.
Does
now
this
stop.
movie feature the 5 bumps on Redford's right cheek more than any other Robert Redford movie?
They are prominent. This should be a astronomical sign, these 5 bumps.
We
Like
should
we're born under the sign of Redford.
like where they are in relation to each other because they've probably migrated a little bit, don't you think?
But this is the exact thing
Probably
I'm talking
new
about.
ones.
Like, Brad Pitt doesn't have this, and he sucks because of it.
Yeah, we're sick of you, Brad Pitt.
Get the fuck out of here.
You're not hotter now that you're older. We hate you.
So many hotties from back in the day. Alec Baldwin, the guy who became Uncle Ben, who was Higgins in this. They are unrecognizable later because they got the face inflate.
Yeah.
And Redford, from this to Winter Soldier, his face is the same width and height. It's crazy that you don't have to get big face.
When you think of hotties from 1975, you think of Higgins from 3 Days of the Condor?
Hell yeah. Those bangs.
I'm watching my face inflate as we say this, so let's move on.
That is all the time we have for Speed Round. We're going to take a quick break, and we come back. It's award season. Taste Buds, 3 Days of the Condor was nominated for some Oscars. Who gives a shit? We're giving it awards. These ones matter.
Oscars are like stupid, bro.
They're pretty like stupid, bro. Starting with coolest spycraft, Ryan. What do you got?
Oh, I mean, I think this. I love the CIA's reaction of, okay, well, go call him on another phone, not knowing that Robert Redford has basically taken down all phones. He's climbed
King of the
under
phones.
the ground
Into the middle of the phone.
and he's pulled out every wire and he's attached them to each other in such a way where he's like, no, this. He has every phone.
Yeah, he basically gets a moving VPN of phones.
Mm-hmm.
Greg?
He's calling from everywhere.
But what would your command of phones be without the phone tones, the sounds it make when you press the buttons? And he does a trick I first saw in the movie Hackers, where he gets someone to like input their password and then he records it on a little tape deck and he plays it back. Such a baller move. And then he uses that to like actually hack into their phone directory. I love that.
That is pretty cool, but Ryan had the same one as me, so the point goes.
Which is just all phones.
Can I give a special announcement to this mailman's shoes are clean? And then knowing he's going to get in a fight.
Mailman's shoes are covered in shit normally.
There should be at least one dog chewing on his ankle.
What is President Redford's most presidential moment, Greg?
I'm going to have to say instantly capturing a woman and then not letting her leave. That just seems like, I think
USA.
that's like, yeah.
USA.
Honestly, I think if you look at all of the presidents, they probably all have at least one moment where they would not let a woman leave of her own free will.
Is that why I'm not president yet?
Yeah.
That's why,
good.
yeah.
Ryan, what is your presidential moment?
He's got the rich dude in the chair, and he's realized the why the countries are connected, that or why the languages are connected. He's like, oil. It's oil? Ooh, oil. And that's every president has to have that moment of like, hello, oil.
I like how when he's questioning that guy, the guy's like, I'm not going to answer you. But then he just shakes the chair a little bit. He's like, okay, I'll answer. But
Nobody's
then
ever shaken my chair before.
But then he asks him another question. The guy's like, I don't know. And then he shakes the chair again. If you're going to give it up after like one chair shake, just say what it is that you know. Yeah.
Or if he asks a question and doesn't shake the chair, it cuts to just a talking head of that guy in the chair, and just like, I thought he was going to shake the chair, but he didn't, so I didn't have to say anything.
If he had shaken the chair one more time,
God, I would have said
everything up.
I think I went with aspirational president. The lies they feed us versus the oil-loving, women absconding truths. And it's the you think not getting caught in a lie is the same as telling truth. That feels very like what we used to think presidents.
That's a good one.
Cringe, and I'm assuming we're all gonna dance around the same thing. Ryan.
No, I mean, like, I know that the Faye Dunaway thing is an issue, but I think that there was something that was they deemed it necessary for the plot, and I thought that it was worth it to watch the two of them be together. So I'm gonna go with Robert Redford needing cover, and so he goes into a group of black people, and he's like, "You guys know how to break into a car, right?" And they're like, "Yeah," and then they all surround him and walk him out to his car. But Robert Redford in this situation is the piece of shit saying, Don't tell me you don't know how to break into a car.
In his fairness, it was young people. Just most of them are black, Ryan.
Okay.
It's pretty cringy. Greg.
Since I knew I was going to be talking about the Faye Dunaway thing the entire show, I picked another one, which is when he's talking about like the cuneiforms with his girlfriend before she gets shot. And then he's like, "Are you sure?" And she's like, "Hey, does this look like the face of somebody who wouldn't know what a pictogram looks like?" And she's of Asian descent, and it just felt like the movie wouldn't allow that not to be said. Like it had to be said, and then they put the words into her mouth, and so.
Or can you imagine like Sidney Pollack saying, "All right, now nobody say anything. Don't do your next line for like 30 seconds. Just give the audience some time to laugh. Just laugh uproariously at this thing."
I was bummed when she died. All of them dying was sad, but like her fashion sense was fucking on point. She
seemed interesting.
The opening song, she was funny. I was like, I want to watch the rom-com between her and Redford now.
The problem is with 75 movies, it took me a long time to figure out that they were together because he treated her like all dudes treat all women in 1975 movies. Like, I'm just going to put my hand on the small of your back and then your butt while I talk to you.
Yeah, he's just a dude.
Yeah.
They could have just met. Maybe she's taken to his table.
That same exact thing happens at Night Moves, where the guy walks up behind his own wife and starts grabbing her.
Yeah.
And you don't know that it's his wife yet, so you're just like, is this just a sleazy
Come
dude
on,
or
75. What are we doing here?
Pound for pound performance.
Wait, who won that one?
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about it that way, Ryan. Is the ring of one, hey, you black kids, you know how to break into a car, and now I will use you as human shields. Greg.
Pound for pound performance?
Yes.
Yeah, for me, it's Robbie Reds. Just taken away. Like, he gives you both the over-the-top, naive, like, liberal leaning, like, life's easy for me. You just got to, like, open up to people and care and everything. All the way through, like, I will fucking shake your chair if you don't answer my goddamn questions. And I will turn on your stereo as loud as it can go in the middle of the night just to get your fucking attention.
That's so faux tough. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it is intimidating, but it's also the peak of Robert Redford intimidating is I'm going to turn your stereo on as loud as it goes.
And it was kicking. It sounded great, too. Guy's got a great system.
Yeah.
It's as tough as saying knee to an old woman in a town yard. It's not actually tough.
But he travels quite a distance, and I was there for it. I believed it. His effortless charm is like, is effortless and matchless and peerless. So Robert Redford.
We have a best actor for 1975, right? But we don't have a best star. Like who was the best like star as being? And I listed them all earlier, and I don't know if this guy didn't goddamn take the award away from Jack and Robert Mitchum and just coasting on being Robert Redford. Like I thought he was great,
but I don't think he was coasting. Like I saw acting here where Warren Beatty just seems like Warren Beatty.
Yeah.
Faye Dunaway said that he was so invested in the movie All the President's Men that he like never thought about 3 Days of the Condor at all. He would just like show up and be like, okay, I have 10 minutes to do this before I gotta go back to... So I think maybe he was kind of a little bit in coast mode. He's just so good at it that you don't see it happening.
Ryan.
Oh, I think I'm going to say that MVS is the MVP. I think that Max von Sydow's journey here from really, I mean, like almost Frankenstein-like monster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like mindless killer.
Yeah.
All the way through to, in his own weird way, arcing as far as, here is what I am concerned about. He's in his own movie. And that's what I love,
and that movie would be super interesting to like just follow him.
If
like
this
the
was
idea
modern,
that
he would get a spinoff.
I'm going to kill you today, but tomorrow I'm going to give you a lift. Like I want to see that as the center of a movie.
And like I would love to know what the in-between scenes are. Like when we're watching Robert Redford, is Max von Sydow like at the movies watching Funny Lady, just like laughing his ass off? Because I'm off the clock and I love Babs. Like what is he doing? But then at the end to just do that is such like an old pro, you know, like we're all stars here on the set of 3 Days of the Condor, but I'm an old pro and I know exactly what this scene needs at all times. And you know, Mike, they don't even film scenes in order.
What?
Yeah, it was all out of order and he had to figure out what to do at any given time.
How do they keep it straight?
It's impossible.
They have someone with a very big binder.
Yeah. I think his name is Uatu the Watcher.
You got to have that. That one's going to go to Redford and Greg. Director's signature moment, Ryan.
I think that it is. I mean, this is Sidney Pollack. What does Sidney Pollack do?
Seriously, Sidney, what do you do?
What do you do?
What would you say you do here?
Flip on the cameras, get out of everybody's way.
And he is the first to say that. He's the first to say, like, I don't love movies. Not a good director. Don't like my job.
It's a living.
I'm going to say this. Like it like I did or hate it like Greg did. It's have sex with the star. Look, at this point in the movie, we need the star to have sex. We need the star to just like do whatever they want. And this is, I think that Sidney is just the most old school director. And we did a movie directed by John Huston in the 1975 season. He is the most old school director. And I think getting the star topless and in bed with the girl is the director's signature.
Greg?
So yeah, we always talk about how like workman-like Pollock is. And I think there's a time where it really shines. And that's, we as the audience have to understand that when Turner is leaving by the back exit, that is the thing that's going to save his life. And we have to understand exactly what's going on there. And it's kind of too early in the movie for us to have an understanding of that building and the way Pollock shoots him going through the back exit, you are totally aware of what's happening. And I think you get a sense that something bad is going to happen at this location. And this Condor guy is barely going to escape it. And I think that's more subtly presented to you than Pollock usually does. And it's
even with the secretary going, you can't go out that way, and the secretary going, he always goes out that way.
When it rains, he always goes out that way. Yeah, I think it delivers everything the audience needs to understand what's going on, and you don't feel it happening. Yeah. And I think that's what Pollock is good at doing.
Greg. That's going to go to Greg's Pollockian workman-like workhorseness. Our last event before we reveal who the best friend is. Recommendation. If you liked this, what else would you like, Greg?
If you like this movie because you want to stick it to the man and you want to use clever tactics even though you're an every person, that reminds me of the movie Hackers. That also uses the audio trick and features a lot of payphone shenanigans. But for whatever reason, I kept thinking of that movie because it kind of has the same messages about like, an individual is responsible for responding to the system because systems are naturally corrupt. And so then when he does the recording thing, I was like, you know what? Hackers. That's the movie that this is most like.
You are speaking to my heart. I've definitely watched Hackers more recently than people would expect. Is it the last calendar year? You know it is.
We may be the podcast that has seen Hackers the most times of any other podcast.
What about Sneakers?
Dude,
Robert
I've seen
Redford.
Sneakers a lot.
I haven't seen Sneakers ever.
Sneakers is amazing. Sneakers is such a good movie.
With a Ghostbuster.
Yeah, it's got Robert Redford. It's got a lot of technology that is cool for its time, but would seem dated now. But the movie, I think, does a good job of presenting it as very cool.
Sneakers rules.
Sneakers does rule.
Ryan, what's your rating?
Halfway through this movie, I realized that there's a movie that I had watched recently that is a remake of this. And this is probably a more seen movie than Hackers, but I think that a very niche audience has seen this movie a lot, and maybe not the wide world. There's a movie from the late 80s directed by John Carpenter where a guy realizes that he knows more about what's going on than anybody else. And he does this by wearing sunglasses. The sunglasses give him the truth.
Oh, shit.
And so what he does is he tries to convince people without wearing the sunglasses, just, look, I'm telling you the truth. It doesn't work. So then he kidnaps a woman. And the woman helps him by force of gun, but then eventually they fall in love. And also, Roddy Piper fights a guy in an alleyway for 12 minutes.
For so long. Does Terminator does he also kidnap? Yeah, he does, because he has to say, man, what a weird plot point in so many movies.
This happens. I think we could do a top 10. Here our quote unquote protagonist
just grabs a lady woman. and then has sex with her, right? Because he kidnaps her and then they fall in love.
Well, the woman's always like, you hurt me, you hurt my wrist. But damn,
you're very assertive.
Why that should be the next dating app is old movie plot dating app where you're like, I would like to be kidnapped. I would like to kidnap, and they just connect those people.
I stayed away from the movie They Live for so long because I thought it was people liked it for the wrong reasons or reasons that I wouldn't appreciate. It's fantastic. It's such a time capsule, but it's also so good at what it does. It really is the 3 Days of the Condor of the 80s. I can't believe how well they line up.
If you want to watch a handsome man's mind devolve and not know who he should trust, and he is so handsome that you're like, you should probably be evil in a lot of things, David Fincher's The Game. That's what I thought of this whole time, is at any point, somebody, even people he's normally, his friend Sam, might be the one who pulls out a gun to kill him. And it made me think of that. That movie fucking rips ass, and I want to watch it all the time.
That's a fun time at the movies, the game. Like if the second the game's over, you're like, wow, that was great. And then you're like, but part of it didn't make sense. Stop.
Don't
Stop
do that.
right
Don't
there.
do that shit.
Don't think about it. Just enjoy the game.
And then see if in your local area there's a company who does that, and then set up a friend. That is the show. And now the big reveal. Ryan, 28 points.
Ooh.
Greg,
Yeah.
26 points. Ryan, you are my best friend for the week.
I thought we did better than that. It's not the fact that you won. You won with 28 points.
Yeah, we did way better than that. And the real loser is Mike being a bad job at scorer.
Yeah.
Or you motherfuckers, I'm just giving myself a bunch of points now, so I'm my own best friend, is I was entranced and forgot to give points often.
Well, you're welcome.
Such good, thoughtful, cogent arguments were made.
You know what we should do is we should have a home version of Movie of the Year where you get your own scoreboard and you score us as you listen to the podcast.
Oh, shit.
And see how many points
and then
you give us.
Tweet at us how it went. That'd be horrific.
I think you won with that black and white thing. When that happened, I was like, oh, he probably
did you
won.
see my face go, oh,
yeah.
fuck?
Your hand was flapping on the scoring so quickly.
You levitated at a certain point.
All right, that is our 3 days of the Condor show. Coming up next, if you are a patron, that is, of course, at patreon.com/earpopfilter, you will hear us talk about the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
This has to be enough incentive for you to finally sign up for Patreon.
It's
our
a coffee
Rocky
a month.
Horror Show.
It's a coffee a month. Our Rocky Horror Show. We will all be in costume. We will be playing along. So should you. And then, if you're not, you get the finale. Our two-part finale. Our patented, famous two-part finale. So that's what's coming up. Until then, keep watching those movies.